Winners all across the fruited plain. We are so glad that you're here for Win the Day. I'm Mark Simpson, sitting in the seat for John Moran, who is on the plains of North Dakota, enjoying a little bit of a respite. So we're glad that you're here to start the day, win the day. I have with me Andrew Smith, Julie Morris,
Morning.
Anthony Powell. Good morning. How are y'all?
Morning.
So let me ask you a question, because we're going to be talking today about the topic of it's how you do what you do more than what you do, right? And but as you think about winning, as we go into this, what does winning mean to you? I'm curious. I'm just going to throw that out there. What does winning mean to you?
No one wants to go first.
That's a good question. I don't know how to define that. Not losing.
It's like saying, what's love?
What's love?
Everyone defines it differently. There's no consistent agreement, I would say. But winning is, getting ahead, getting closer to rather than farther from what you define as a goal.
I love that. I love that. It's knowing that you're achieving what you set out to achieve, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you have to define it. That's the thing. That's the trick.
That's it. For some people, winning is not a bank account number. It's a relationship. For other people, it's a number of lives touched. For some, it's accomplishing a goal. Whether that's I won by finishing my Ironman. And no, I'm not going to do an Ironman. My marathons, I'm just not going to get on the bike. Destiny, for you, what is winning? And those of you who are watching, let us know what your definition of winning is. We want to hear from you. And then we're going to talk about today's most important topic. Destiny, what's your idea of winning?
For me, it's being able to check that box and say, okay, I did this. I accomplished this goal. Wanted to take my kids on a summer vacation with the work that I did throughout the year and got to check that box. That's a win for me. Winning is competition. I'm super competitive. So I have a goal in mind. And by the end of the year, I'd like to check that box. So that's winning for me.
Yeah, I remember you saying, I want to take my kids on a trip. It was your youngest son's birthday. Mm-hmm. And he got to sit in the pilot's seat up in the cockpit. And what a win to capture that moment.
Yeah, very rewarding.
So where are you winning from, folks? Let us know. Comment and let us know. Like and comment. Where are you winning from? We want to hear from you. Here's the idea of today. You've heard it said that practice makes perfect. And yet, really, practice does not make perfect. It's perfect practice that makes things perfect. In other words, you can do a lot of things consistently wrong, and it's just going to make you consistently wrong. Mm-hmm. It's how you do what you do that determines whether or not you're going to get the outcome. And so in John's post today, he talks about talking with a new agent. And this new agent was working on their scripts. And he asked them, are you using the scripts of millionaire producers? She kind of thought about it a little bit. And ultimately she said, well, it doesn't sound like me, so I've made some tweaks. And so it sounds more like me. So she changed the recipe, the $1 million recipe, to a recipe that would fit her. The only problem is when you change the recipe that wins, you don't get the same outcome. It's like getting a better Betty Crocker brownie mix. And I will tell you something about Betty Crocker brownie mixes. They're not selling you brownies. They're selling you an outcome, because you can go and get all those ingredients from around the store. What they're saying is, we've got a system. We've got a plan that if you will take what's in the box and do what it says on the back of the box, you'll get what's on the front of the box. And some people will take millionaire scripts and they'll start changing what's in the box and what's on the back of the box, and they don't get what's on the outside of the box, and they're scratching their head. And so it's not as much about what you do. It's how you do what you do. And so when it comes to your business, my question is, what Betty Crocker brownie mix box are you following? Or are you creating your own from scratch? And have you earned the right to create your own recipe? Or is it something that you need to go back and humble yourself and take the box off of the people that have done it and done it well before you and say, I'm going to master this. And then once you master that, then you can get into your experimental kitchen and then you can begin to tweak it. But the fact of the matter is many of you have not earned that right, and you're not winning because you're neglecting the box of winning. What do you think about that, Julie?
Well, I mean, I don't know when we spoke about it, maybe last week, but the point that I made was mastery. You cannot improvise until you've mastered. You don't have a master guitar player improvising before they learn the scales. You don't have a master pianist, playing, jumping up and playing with a band when you don't just start pounding on the keys if you haven't learned how to play it first. So, and you have to master the scripts and the formula. And I would challenge a lot of people, and I read John's post this morning, I would challenge them when they say, I've tweaked it to make my own. I would say, can you say the script to me right now? And I will bet you $100 that they can't. So when they say I've tweaked it to make it my own, the reality is they never learned it to begin with. So learn it. You have to learn it. You have to learn it because, I have a script for how I do an open house. 100% impossible to fail. You will get 100% of the people that walk through the door. But you have to follow it. You have to follow it exactly or you'll fail. So when people say that didn't sound like me, I had to tweak it to make it my own, I will challenge them and say, did you actually learn it? Because the reality is probably not.
Right. So I got to know what the script is that works 100% of the time.
That's a whole nother.
I was curious too.
I actually do a 3-hour class, but I can shorten it to an hour.
Excellent. Well, we will have to do that.
Mhm.
How many of you, I'd love to hear from you, post down below if we were to line this up and to set up a registration where you could come in and hear Julie's mastery, her Betty Crocker brownie mix of how to rock an
I
open.
promise you, every time I have an open house, if I have 12 people come through, I have 12 phone numbers and I probably have 12 emails, but I don't always get the emails. So yes, it's 100%.
All right. How many of
I
you
love
would sign up for that box, that course?
Mhm.
I would. I'm in. John, yes. Great idea there. So,
But that's the script. It comes back to what we're talking about here is it's not what you do. A lot of people have open houses and a lot of people will tell you that they don't work and that they fail. And I will tell you, because that's your mindset. That's your choice to choose that it doesn't work. But I will tell you, it works. It's impossible to fail if you follow a script that somebody else has refined after 100,000 times of doing something and you change one word. Each time you do it, you learn something and you write it down and you change it. Someone has come up with these scripts. So why are you, as a beginner, tweaking it to make it your own? You don't know what you're doing.
could you imagine Tom Hanks the first time he receives one of his Oscar award-winning scripts going, yeah, this just doesn't sound like me, and throwing it down instead of saying, I'm going to master this script until you suspend all reality and it moves people. And that's just it. As he internalizes the script, he masters the script, he delivers it in such a way that we're moved.
Mhm.
We cry, we laugh, we do whatever. It's all scripted. It's all started as letters on a page that he mastered until he made himself sound like the script. Think about that.
Mhm.
That's a big difference. It doesn't sound like me. No, I'm going to make it sound like I'm going to make me sound like the script in a powerful way. That's what we're talking about in mastering. It's how you do what you do. Andrew, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking one thing. When you said perfect practice makes perfect, it brought me back to a time when I was in junior high, and my parents sent me off to tennis camp at Texas A&M, and they told us when we got there that they wanted us to go home worse than we arrived. And I thought that was so strange. But then they went on to explain that they wanted to break all your bad habits because we all had these bad habits, being in junior high trying to play tennis. So I think that goes along. If you're not practicing the right way, you're not going to get the right results anyway.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. And Julie and Andrew, about this. When you start training for a marathon, There's an interesting thing happening. Your cardiovascular improves very rapidly, but your skeletal structure actually breaks down before it rebuilds. And so you've got to, a lot of times in training, not that you signed up here to talk about marathons, but what happens is a lot of people get injured because they don't allow the breaking down. They ramp up and they start ramping up and doing too much too soon, too fast. And while they're pushing it before their body's ready for it, in the 12th, 13th week, they develop stress fractures because they didn't allow for getting worse before they get better. And if you allow for that process, meaning set your ego aside and actually sound a little awkward until you build up that muscle memory, that place of I've got this now, then you can go all kinds of distance. Destiny, talk to us.
No, I think back to, I'm really into the Olympics this year, and I love every aspect of it. And I just keep thinking how easy they make it look, and in my mind, I'm like, I could get out there and do that, but they've trained for this almost their whole life to, like you said, that mastery that they have developed to do these flips and these turns and run the way that they do, and the way that they even start their running. And it's all about the start. And I love watching that. And I think that ties into this. You've got to take the time to learn and be patient with yourself. And you're going to mess up. You're going to fall. You're going to stumble. You're going to fail. But you've got to be willing to learn that mastery and then become a master at it.
You have to embrace the failure before you can become a master.
Right.
You can't say, I'm just going to do it my way. You have to do what works.
Everything we've ever succeeded at, we failed our way to it. We failed our way to talking, walking, riding bikes, counting to 10, everything. And the fact is there's no failure. It's just feedback. It's like, okay, I did it. And especially with scripts, I want to challenge you. Find the $1 million scripts. There are tried and true scripts, whether in Keller Williams, Bold scripts, Fairy scripts, whatever. Find those scripts. Be careful about which scripts you're taking, because anybody can write them. The question is, are they time tested? Are they proven? Then record yourself. And one of the things that I have found is if you're willing to play with them, as you're reading them, say them angrily, say them happily, sing them, do all of these things until it's ingrained. There is a process of mastery that's not just reading it over and over. Take a little bit, record it, listen back, try it a different way, emphasize different words, add in pauses until you can sound real. That's the key. And I think sometimes people take it too seriously instead of taking it like a child, because children play at walking, talking. Have you ever seen, I've seen my children, I've seen my grandchildren. They learn to talk by they hear a sound that's funny to them, trying to formulate a word, and then they just keep repeating it and babbling, but they're playing their way into talking. Do the same thing. Do the same thing.
I would say do the same thing, but again, coming back to what we're talking about, don't start to improvise before you've mastered. You have got to exactly memorize exact words, every word. You can change the intonation, you can change the pauses, and that comes with the mastery part. Bringing it back to doing scales as a musician. You can't change the order of the scales. The keys are the keys. You have to do them in that order.
Yes.
The notes on the page are the notes on the page. You can't improvise until you have them mastered. So it has to be reaction. It has to be that it happens without thinking. It has to be unconscious that you can say it before you can change it.
And I think that's the key. And please hear me on this, is don't change the words. Play with the words, not changing them, but it's through that progressive playing, not just reading it over and over and over, that it gets down into, and you internalize it. It gets into your deepest parts. Then you know how to deliver it. We've all done that in many ways. So my question to you is, what are you, first of all, committed to in terms of, this is my script? Do you have a good buyer script? Do you have a good listing script? We're having, for many of us realtors, the whole rules are changing around our listing agreements and our conversations around compensation for our buyers. The rules have changed with the NAR settlement, and we've got to find new scripts. We are in that process of figuring out some new ways to do this, and we need to be digging into those scripts. Any thoughts about how this is going to force us to be better with the changes in our industry?
Well, we've already implemented in Arizona. August 1st, we went live with, there's a fine now if you don't have a buyer broker agreement. The first penalty is $500 and the second one is $5,000. So for people who choose not to get the buyer broker agreement ahead of showing a property, they're in trouble. So you have got to learn how to say it and how to articulate your value. I think it's actually going to improve the compensation for buyers agents.
Great.
Because now what we're doing is we're putting it in the offer, and we don't have to take what the listing agent negotiated or the balance of what the listing agent wants to give us based on what the seller is paying. We put in the offer what the buyer broker commission compensation will be, and then the seller gets to accept or reject that or counter that. But your client, the buyer, is going to negotiate on your behalf when they come back, because if you have a buyer broker agreement in place ahead of time that says 3% and the seller comes back at 2%, that means that your client has to come up with 1%. So now they're on your team. They're not throwing that away like they used to in the past. So it's actually going to improve commissions.
And we're going to talk about 3 popsicle sticks and 2 popsicle sticks,
right.
Whatever that is.
Bananas.
Bananas.
3 bananas versus 2 bananas. Yes.
The key is you're going to have to learn your scripts of negotiation. You're going to learn. And I think ultimately this is about, don't just wing it. Get into conversations. And the other thing is, be careful who you're choosing to practice with. Are they as committed to learning the notes? Are they as committed?
What's their experience?
And what's
Be careful about their experience, because there's a lot of experts and gurus who have podcasts and things, and they aren't actually doing. So make sure you have an ingredient of doers, because you're going to see all the nuances as a doer, and you're going to see all the things that you can theoretically come up with scripts and how it's going to play out and practice it theoretically, but then there's reality. So make sure you have a number of doers who you're listening to.
I hopped on the phone with a good friend of mine whose area jumped into this much earlier, and they've been running with the changes well in advance. And I wanted to put my ear to the ground. Who's working it? He does 120 million in sales, and we're talking in the $250,000 average price point. So they're putting it down. And so I was just picking his brain. What is it that you're doing? What is it that's happening? And he says, Mark, with the changes and with these scripts, and boy, I'm taking notes. I'm working through that. He says, we're averaging now a whole extra popsicle stick on every transaction because of how we're approaching that. And look, find what works and copy it. Don't go changing the back of the box when you buy the better Betty Crocker mix. And don't leave out the eggs. Don't leave that out. Destiny, talk to us.
Well, I think the biggest reward and the biggest gold star is when, you're dialing and you get somebody who recognizes your script. I've had that happen a few times where somebody's like, oh, I know that script. I know the person who came up with that script. You've got to read this book. And so for me, that says I nailed it. I got it. Because it's somebody who is very experienced. These brokers out there that have been training and doing these things for a while have shared with me, hey, you're doing a good job. That's a good script. Keep it up. Didn't get the business, but it worked. So I think, like you said, just stick with it. Don't try to wing it. And it's a lot more effective that way.
All right, we're coming up on 8:20. This is about winning the day. It's how you do what you do that matters, and practicing and refining your skills. Andrew, I'm going to throw it to you. Give us some final thoughts, and then Julie, you, and then Destiny, I'll let you bring it home. How are we going to win the day?
Get in a group, get an accountability partner. You can use Toastmasters to get better at your presentation skills. I mean, there's a lot of things out there. You just got to start doing it, and just start small. It might be uncomfortable when you start, but you're never going to get better if you continue doing nothing.
It will be uncomfortable when you start.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace that. Julie.
Yep, I agree with Andrew. Get in a group, have an accountability partner group, what have you. But choose what is your business? What is your primary business? Are you mostly working with buyers or sellers? Or if you don't know, if you're brand new, I would suggest memorize the buyer scripts, because you're going to have buyers before sellers. But memorize one, master one, start with one, and get really good at that. Get it where you can say it in your sleep, upside down, spinning around, no matter what is thrown at you, so that when you're in the moment, it comes out, because then you can actively listen, which is your goal, is to listen and ask questions and find out what their needs are so you can solve their problems and not be focused on what you're going to say next. So figure out who your number one client is and master that script.
Love it. And by the way, we want you not only to do it for our winners, we want to bring you in via Zoom or something to do your open house for KWEC on the Emerald Coast. So we'll connect you and Andrew together. Destiny, bring us home. Help us win for the day. Give us marching orders.
I would say be teachable. Be able to be flexible and moldable so that you can be taught, and allow yourself to kind of break a little bit so that you can learn it the right way.
There we go. Hey, look, lean in hard. It's worth it. You're worth it. And if you will put in the time, and if you will refine your skills and commit to the uncomfortable process of mastery, you will reap the rewards long term. Hey, folks, let's go win the day. Thank you so much. Make sure you like and you share this stream to as many people as possible. I will be in the seat one more time, and then John will be back on Thursday. Let's go win the day.
Bye, guys.
Have a great day.